Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. I'm Brandon Redlinger from Chile Piper, and today I also have joined with me Tara.
I'm also from Chili Piper, and I'm super excited to be here. I've been in the demand community for a couple years now, so really pumped to be at this event.
Yes, thank you so much for having us. Okay, so we have a lot to cover today. Let's just dive right in. Today, we're talking about the demand conversion blueprint. We're talking about the tools, the tips, the tricks, the tactics to generate more pipeline. And first, I wanted to start off with this surprising stat here. So, generally speaking, for B2B SaaS tech companies, about 1.2% of the demand that's generated turns into qualified pipeline. So that's your website visitors, that's the people that engage with your ads, that's the people that engage with you on LinkedIn. And then from there, roughly 25% of those people turn in from your pipeline actually turn into close one revenue. And that's being generous too. So if we're doing the math, that means about 0.3% of leads actually turn into revenue. Now, that is probably a bit surprising to some of you, maybe not surprising to others, but I think it's concerning for everyone involved because a lot of our energy and effort that we put into marketing and demand gen is wasted if only 0.3% of those leads do turn into revenue. And we call that the demand conversion gap. And we'll go into what that is right here.
Yeah, so I think it's not super surprising to me, unfortunately, that
Yeah.
number, but a lot of marketers like to celebrate when we get a form fill, a qualified lead, and sales celebrates when the deal is finally closed, maybe months later. But a lot has to go right in the middle for that to all happen and come together. So marketers are good at creating MQLs, but that's often where our efforts kind of stop. We often tend to fumble or drop the ball. And sales is good at nurturing opportunities and turning those into closed won deals. But sometimes their efforts are starting a little bit too late in the process. So there's a big gap in between here that's really typically either avoided by marketers or they just don't know how to address it. And no one is really responsible for those funnel stages in between. So that gap is what we're going to talk about today because it can be a gold mine for a lot of B2B teams.
Exactly. And as I mentioned, we call this or we call that gap the demand conversion gap. But what we're talking about today is the process we call demand conversion. So, what is demand conversion? It's the process of turning initial interest into actionable sales opportunities. So, this really ensures that no lead is left behind and that every journey, every lead really progresses towards successful outcomes, those close won deals. And it's the bridge that connects marketing efforts to the sales success, right? Turning those MQLs into engaged opportunities, into close one deals. So there are a bunch of things that do get in the way, and Tara is going to jump into that.
Yeah, so there are a couple things that tend to get overlooked. One of them is metrics. So obviously you have to be tracking the right things. You have to track what you want to improve. You can't always do that without the metrics. So you need to get that right first. Second is ownership. So again, sometimes there's no one owning that handoff from marketing to sales. So without someone having a clear owner, that can sometimes get dropped. And then lastly is technology. So we'll get into what your tech stack could look like later on in the presentation, but there's a ton of different options out there that can help clear this gap for you.
Exactly. And we do have a quick checklist here for you. We're going to dive into some of these aspects a little bit more deeply throughout the presentation, but let's just cover this real quick. Okay, step one. It doesn't have to be necessarily in this order, but this is how I have it on the screen. So map out the buyer's journey. And this is really about understanding and documenting the typical path your customer takes from awareness all the way down to purchase. And this is where you're identifying the key touch points, the potential bottlenecks and opportunities for engagement throughout that journey. And you have to remember, it's not about how you want to sell to your customers, it's about how the buyers want to buy. And that's a big piece of the journey today is buyers have more power than ever. So we really have to cater to how they want to buy. The second one here is set up account scoring and qualification. This is a system to help you prioritize the leads and prioritize those accounts based on their likelihood to convert. And again, we'll touch a little bit more on this later, but a deeper dive on that. But going to the next one, it's really about optimizing and integrating all the technologies. So everything talks together. Everything's pretty seamless. And this is about ensuring that your tools and all your technology, all your platform are really integrated so that it is a streamlined process and experience for the buyers. The next one here, training and enabling your sales and marketing teams. If if anyone's followed me for a while, you know I beat this drum all the time, because I think enabling your internal teams is one of the most important things that you can do, right? It's about providing that ongoing training and the resources for both your sales team and your marketing team, and often your success and AMs too, your account management team, to really make sure everyone's aligned on the funnels and the objectives and the tactics. And regular communication and feedback loops for your team is pretty important here. And then the last one, of course, monitor, analyze, and optimize your process. So continuing to monitor your performance and getting that feedback loop going, making sure you have the analytical tools in place so that you can, and then adjusting from there. And a deeper dive into analyzing your funnel. So I think this is one of the most important keys as well, is just having a good grasp of your overall funnel health. And the way I like to do this is making sure we have the value, volume, velocity, and conversion rate at every step of the funnel. So if you look at this funnel, this is actually what our funnel looks like. And you'll notice there's no mention of MQLs here. We'll go a little bit deeper into what we track and what we deem as the most important metric for demand gen and marketers right now is. But this is how we've laid out our funnel. However you lay it out, what is really key is that you're tracking the value, volume, velocity, and conversion at every stage. And of course, the value actually only starts as soon as that turns into an opportunity, whatever stage that is for you. And then so the value should be in dollars. Volume is just a number. Velocity is measured in days, and conversion, of course, is a percentage. And what you want to do is, this is a periodic, this is cohort-based analysis. So you're taking a snapshot at the beginning of your accounting period. So whether you're doing it monthly, you want to take that snapshot at the beginning of every month and then measure that over time, month by month. It's not one of those things that's rolling. You can't take a look and at the middle of the quarter and say, this is what we did last quarter, because those numbers are going to fluctuate and that's going to throw you off. So that needs to be a snapshot taken at the beginning of every single quarter or every single month, whatever you measured on. And then from there, what's really interesting to diagnose any problems if you're short on any of your metrics here is, now let's actually look at that by industry or by vertical or by product. And then you can really start to analyze and see, all right, where are we short? And then having these in place really helps you forecast a lot more accurately and helps you really figure out what's working for us and what's not.
Yeah, one key piece that I've definitely overlooked in the past is that velocity part. I think everyone talks about it, but I didn't quite wrap my head around how it worked. And getting all of your data timestamped is huge to get that right. So you need to know at what date or what even hour, if you can, someone filled out that form and when did we move them to the next stage. And that can be really important for diagnosing things like if you have a problem with speed to lead, speed to contact, getting back to people. Without those timestamps, it's really tough to diagnose and then obviously fix those problems.
Yeah, such an important point. Yeah, like we're getting into the weeds, but yeah, if you're not time stamping every stage change that you have on your life cycles, start doing that immediately, like immediately.
Yeah, you can't really do it retroactively. You have to start.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. As I mentioned on the previous slide, you did not see any mention of MQLs. We measure something that's called qualified held meeting, the QHM. So the QHM is the new MQL for us because historically marketing really is measured on MQLs, but we think that's a very outdated way. So what is a QHM? A qualified held meeting. Qualified means it has to be qualified, and it must meet specific criteria that both sales and marketing agree upon together. The meeting is held, so the meeting has to actually take place, and this really indicates an interest, right? And then sales involvement, because a rep's involvement is critical, so that you can really it signals that stage involvement throughout the process. And then there are three key things that really make QHMs work. So first is you have to have clearly defined criteria, and it has to be documented at every stage, and you have to have the entry and exit criteria. Then secondly, you have to clearly define and document SLAs, and they have to be enforced. And then the third thing really is about QHMs have to be one of your top three, if not your top marketing KPI. And ideally, that's how you're compensated. That's how all of this works. All three things have to happen.
Yeah, I think that's a key step in building that sales marketing alignment. A lot of marketers like to talk of it as more of just like, how do we get sales to like us and want to work with us? But if you're passing them qualified meetings, they're going to want to work with you. Another way can really be automating some of that busy work that sales reps find themselves stuck in. So if you can automate things like account scoring, automating accounts over to your reps, automating leads over to your reps, that way they're not spending their time digging through Salesforce trying to find those good quality accounts. And they're really spending their time on things like research, personalizing. Obviously, with all the AI spam bots out there now doing SDR work, personalization is pretty much the only way to stand out now in your inbox. And then they're building those relationships. And obviously, all of that helps them close more deals, which at the end of the day is what sales is accountable for and what they want to be doing more of.
Perfect. And a way that we start to measure this, we have something that we call the demand conversion score. Sometimes we abbreviate it, the DCS, but this is a composite index that usually ranges from 1 to 20. And I say usually, we haven't really seen anyone that goes that much higher than the 15 mark. We're working on some of this ourselves. But what this really is, it's a reflection of the health of your demand conversion process. So the higher the score indicates the more efficient pipeline with minimal leakage, where leads are followed up with quickly, they're transferred over to sales, no leads slip through the cracks, and then sales is also effectively able to work those leads and turn those opportunities into deals.
Just a quick look at some benchmarks this is a brand new system, so we're looking to set more benchmarks. But if you're in the 1 to 5 score range, you're probably in trouble with your conversion. So there's a lot that you could take a look at improving. 5 to 10 is really what we're seeing now is kind of a benchmark. Like Brandon said, we haven't seen a ton of people up in the 20 plus score range just yet, but we're still looking for more. So if you calculate your score and you have a high one, we'd love to hear from you and chat with you. And just one thing to note is that even though we're really working behind the scenes a lot to try to improve our own demand conversion, our own conversion across our site, across our funnel, there's a lot of areas of improvement for us too. So one thing that we're working on improving at Chili Piper is actually the show rates for our outbound efforts. So we're experimenting with things like account-based landing pages. We're also rolling out digital sales rooms to our AEs to get their opportunities more excited and building up to that meeting, kind of selling the meeting a little bit more. So lots of room for improvement there for us personally, but we'd love to hear from anyone who does this exercise for themselves and what your score was.
So if you do your score, you're in that 1 to 5 range, or honestly, even if you're in the range of 5 to 10, or if you're in the 10s and you want to go all the way up to 20, we do have a few recommendations, things that you can do right now to help you increase your score and things that you can work with your team on over time. And the first really is about the lead, optimizing your lead and account qualification. And this is about implementing or just more refining your scoring system to ensure that only those high quality leads are really passed to sales, and that really improves the likelihood of conversion. And again, this is about quality over quantity. You can enhance your lead routing and distribution process. So using advanced routing algorithms to ensure that leads are directed to the most appropriate reps, based on things like could be product engagement, could be the geo, could be industry, et cetera, whatever makes the most sense for you and how you're splitting your sales team up. Leverage automation tools. We are going to dive a lot into the tools a little bit later. We'll show you some of the tools that we're using. We'll show you some of the tools that we want to use and just all the other tools in the space. But this really helps you automate a lot of the systems to help you increase your speed to lead and increase those conversion rates. The next one is improved sales enablement. Again, I'll beat this drum again and again, but I think enablement, really arming your sales team with the right tools and the information and the training so that they can have more timely and relevant and personalized conversations with those deals. And the last step is analyze and refine. So this is about continuously monitoring your score and really looking at the data to identify those bottlenecks or the stages where those leads are being lost or might be lost. And remember those metrics that I talked about earlier: value, volume, velocity, and conversion. And hopefully you can increase your score.
Great. And one other key way to increase your score is obviously having the right tech stack in place. So we put together this demand conversion map. I won't go through everything here, it's a lot, but we will break down a couple slides in a second. And one thing to note here is just that most of these tools are connected in some way to either your CRM or your marketing automation. So we're not suggesting you rip and replace those tools, but it's worth investigating the full landscape of all the tools you can have at your disposal. So in this first category of optimization, obviously, there's a lot of ways to optimize your existing website traffic. A/B testing and CRO optimization is one key one. We also have chat, which is becoming a pretty crowded space now, but a lot of these tools can be pretty cumbersome to manage. So definitely keep that in mind as you're evaluating chat tools. You want something that you don't have to do a lot of work to maintain those playbooks and keep things up to date. And then the interactive demo side is one thing that's on our to-do list, but we'll get to that hopefully later this year.
Yeah, there's always a long wish list, right, of things that we want to do that we can do. Cool. We're talking about, okay, this section we're talking about scheduling and calendaring. Pretty straightforward. These are the tools that make it easier for prospects or customers or open opportunities even to book time on your reps' calendars. And again, this could be a book time with your SDRs, with your AEs, your CSMs, or your AMs, but it's all about making sure you can get time on their calendar at their convenience. And then this section. So this section is one of the fun ones, one of the real meaty ones, because we're always testing out and trying new tools and technology or new flows with our team to make things more efficient and more effective. The first one is form routing, and this is really the bread and butter of Chili Piper. There are some other solutions out there as well, which we also included because we do want this to be a pretty comprehensive and helpful market map for everyone. But this is about routing leads that fill out your form to the right rep. And this could be, this could even be a customer filling out a form to get time on the right CSM's calendar. So I've seen some great use cases for that, aside from just top of the funnel leads. The next one is about lead distribution. So this is more the internal piping to assign leads and contacts to the right sales reps, which include important things like lead to account matching. And then the last one here on this slide is about enrichment. So this is enriching with data. So it's gathering and appending data about leads to improve the quality of your leads and so that your reps can have more quality conversations.
Great. And that last category is all around handing off leads and prospects from one team to another. This is often a super messy part of your funnel. So if you're having any problems around speed to lead, this is one place I would definitely start taking a look at what that process looks like from, say, SDRs to your AEs and how you can improve that handoff.
Very good. And if this is interesting to you, we actually wrote an entire guide around demand conversion, and we really map out all the things that we're trying internally, and we're documenting those processes. But we also have over 50 influencers and other GTM leaders that contributed to this guide. So all names that you probably all have heard helped us put this entire guide together. So if you want to check that out, we have the link at the bottom. And thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any other questions, feel free to hit us up both on LinkedIn. We're both pretty active there. It's probably the best way to get in touch with me. I don't know. What about you, Tara?
You can try on Twitter, but I'm not as responsive.
I'm not on Twitter either.
I'm just there to creep, basically. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
All right. Thanks, everyone.